Today's edition of the Pan-African Morning. My name is THUSI and I'm holding the fort for my colleague Audrey Chimwanda. Thank you so much for joining us. Please do further the conversation across all our social media platforms. We are Galaxy Universal Network on Facebook. We are GAN_TV_ on Instagram and on Twitter. With that being said, let's get to our top stories. Do stay tuned, as later on the show we'll be joined by Untate Solima Paile to engage with us on the matters of the political sphere. Let's get to our top stories. The ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa delivered the much-anticipated closing remarks following the party's NEC meeting that started this past weekend. The tone for this weekend's NEC meeting was set earlier this week when the ANC Top 6 meeting ended up in chaos following a clash between Ramaphosa and Magashule after the latter was told to step down in the interest of a broader party unity.
From the 26th to the 29th of March, we were honored with the presence of President Mbeki, President Zuma, past presidents of the African National Congress. We held robust and very in-depth discussions on a variety of issues. In the main, the meeting discussed the foremost priorities for 2021, but more in particular, the response of our nation to COVID-19 pandemic and the economic reconstruction. The meeting reviewed the ANC's program of action for 2021 and held a session with the Integrity Commission to receive and discuss its reports as well as recommendations on both generic issues impacting on its work and specific cases it has processed. On the response to COVID-19, the NEC took place on the first anniversary of the implementation of a nationwide lockdown to contain the spread of the virus. We're very much aware that when we started meeting, this was the day when the lockdown commenced. The decisive measures taken in the early days of the outbreak of the COVID-19 in our country helped to delay the spread of the virus and enabled the preparation of our health facilities for the expected rise in infections. The National Executive Committee of the ANC would like to commend the people of South Africa for the unity, the solidarity, and the discipline that they have displayed over the last year. Difficult year it has been. Despite great hardship and difficulty,
and the ANC Free State branch weighed in this, and their remarks rather proved to be standing by the Secretary General of the ANC, Mr. Ace Magashule.
As the branches of the ANC in the Free State, we want to state it very clear, without any fear or contradiction, that we disagree with the intention of a fraction in the ANC NEC to remove the Secretary General by any means necessary. We call on the NEC to take branches of the ANC serious and value their input to make towards building a strong ANC. Lastly, when it comes to the progress thereof, because of the soul of the African National Congress, it is at stake here. Ours is to make sure that the ANC is victorious. We need to fix the ANC and rid it of those who are in it for their self-centered, narrow, selfish interest. To save what is left of the ANC, we demand an NTC which is going to reignite the mandate of the African National Congress and take South Africa forward. It remains politically true that in the absence of leadership, the masses will lead themselves. When those who dance to a trumpet played by Rupert, we as structures of the movement will do the opposite. Thank you very much.
On our next story, the former Eskom CEO Machela Koko on Monday said that the State Capture Commission must stop what he called the Koko hunt or targeting him in its investigation. Koko was back at the commission where he said that he was aware of the people who were saying things with regards to him to make him look bad. Koko also told the commission that he did not understand why Cyril Ramaphosa interfered with Eskom and instructed a board that hasn't met to dismiss him.
Why did the Deputy President of the Republic interfere in the affairs of Eskom to instruct the board that was yet to meet to dismiss me? I now know, based on the video affidavit and the testimony of Ms. Brown, that 3 of those board members were not even vetted as they should be vetted. So I look forward to Mr. Ramaphosa coming here. I hope you've served him with 3.3 notices. I looked at the documents that were sent to me last night. They were voluminous. I did not see a statement from the former deputy minister that I've mentioned. I'm not sure if he's been served with 3.3 notices yet. I've not seen the statement of
You said deputy minister, you meant deputy president or deputy minister?
I have not seen the statement of the deputy minister who phoned me and told me that the president will be. I thought that would be of interest to the commission.
Yes.
I also thought that it would be of interest to the commission that the DG who called me and told me that the president will be dismissing me. I did not see that statement. I did not see the statement of the deputy president, and I thought I humbly seek a clarity from you on what's going to happen.
No, I can tell you. I can't tell you for sure whether your statement implicating or to the effect that the current president issued an instruction, whether it was served, but Mr. Slega will be able to say that, but I can assure you that I too am interested in what the president has to say about your evidence in that regard. And he certainly should be questioned on that. The legal team is preparing on such matters, but Mr. Slega should be able to respond to whether or not a Rule 33 notice was issued, and the issue of a statement from the deputy minister as well as from the DG. You are right.
Thank you so much for joining us right here on the Pan-African Morning, right here on Galaxy Universal Network, channel 500 on Starset. Thank you so much for joining us, and please do further the conversation across all our social media platforms. We are Galaxy Universal Network on Facebook. We are GAN_TV_ on Instagram and on Twitter. With that being said, in studio I am joined by Ubaba Usoli Mapaile to engage with us with the matters of politics and everything that's happening in our country. As you may know, that history has no blank pages. A very warm welcome to you, Ntate Mapaile. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning to our viewers.
We truly appreciate the opportunity you are affording us. Baba, one of the things that we grew up seeing is that you were part, or you witnessed the struggle of our people back in the days. And what has been the highlight of you growing up in that, and especially in 1969 on that conference, the Morogoro conference? What were the sentiments with regards to that?
Morogoro conference was extremely important for the people of South Africa because it's the conference that the ANC had after its banning by the apartheid regime outside the country. It was in Morogoro. It's a place in Tanzania where the movement was in exile. So they managed to organize a conference. In fact, it was a consultative conference to look into new avenues that the movement has begun to enter into. A couple of years ago, in 1967, the ANC and the SACP, of course, our allies in SACTU, now COSATU, Congress of South African Trade Unions, had launched armed struggle from Zambia into Zimbabwe, jointly working with ZIPRA forces, that is Zimbabwe People's Revolutionary Armed Forces. They called that the Wanki and Spolilo operations. So this sojourn of military combat, which was the first time after the launch of our armed struggle, that from outside now with well-trained young men and women, we then infiltrated them back in the country to fight the apartheid regime. Of course, the Smith regime in the then Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe. This operation met a massive resistance from Smith regime, supported by the South African Defence Force, the Apartheid Defence Force, and it lasted a couple of years. And ultimately, injuries and so forth, several arrests, and several other people retreated into Botswana because there was no backup to the guerrilla teams that were sent in. As a result, the movement had to reflect particularly on that moment, as well as to develop and endorse a proper framework of strategy and tactics of the liberation struggle on how to execute the liberation struggle back inside the country and from outside, and also using armed combat. So Morogoro was a massive reflective platform for the movement because at that time many people questioned a lot of things. For instance, they questioned why the soldiers were not supported in the bush, why the movement was not in the shape that it should have been, and so forth. So there were serious tensions. As you know, before Morogoro, the ANC president back in the country, Chief Albert Luthuli, was murdered by the apartheid regime, as well, and Deputy President at the time, Oliver Tambo, who was mandated to lead the external mission of the ANC, was the de facto leader of the ANC outside. So Morogoro Conference also had to confirm him as president of the ANC, because he had to undertake serious issues about life and death of his soldiers, and he was not yet president.
And from history, we understand that at that time, you know, the then president, Mr. Oliver Tambo, was at the brink of resigning. What was the cause of that?
There were internal wranglings in the movement, like this point that I'm raising about the state of the organization. The same as the state of the organization is not in good shape now, today, as it should be. Even at that time, there were many things. There was a group called the Gang of Eight, or characterized as the Gang of Eight. That group had led inside the movement serious dissatisfaction about how the movement was run. In that conference, President Oliver Tambo nearly did not stand to be president of the ANC. And coming to think of it, it would have been a major loss for our country, because possibly one of the greatest leaders of the ANC or our liberation movement ever produced on the African continent. A steadfast, clear leader who reached all angles, who had ability to mobilize the masses, and he had the pulse of the country at heart, was able to articulate the concerns of the people as a whole. But because of the tensions, President Tambo felt that instead of him bringing perhaps the movement into disrepute by seeking to remain, let him give the new voices an opportunity to lead. But J.B. Marx, who was then chairman of the Communist Party, felt that it was too soon. He was a member of the ANC in his own right. I think at one point was its Treasurer General. Decided that they must have some moment of reflection. And they took a break and had the reflections, and they were able to engage President O.R. He came back and accepted nomination to be president.
When you look at the history of the leaders within the ANC, over time we saw that even when they were faced with monument challenges, they would find an amicable solution to that. But of late, we are finding that it's a different case. What's different between the leadership then that made them to be able to come up with solutions, amicable solution to every crisis that, you know, our people are facing, and then now comparing the two, obviously?
Well, it's a time in history. That particular time, information flowed quite slowly, and also the value system was much different. And now, information flows very fast. The value system is not that good across the board in societies. There's too much one for oneself instead of service for others. So that remains a big a challenge for us. But the movement in terms of policies, they remain important in terms of geared towards serving the people. And therefore, we need the leaders who are not driven by fake news syndrome, where information is just passed quickly, allegations that are now weaponized, and once an allegation is out there, you are finished, and so forth. And I think the Gang of Eight at the Morogoro Conference 1969 tried that approach, which failed. As you know, later on they were expelled from the ANC for their nefarious intentions in trying to disrupt and bring these divisions inside the organizations. Now we have a situation where democracy has grown as well. We are now in power as a movement. We also have resources at the hands because we are leading the state. So all of those things do have an impact on the quality of democracy. And we also don't have, we have a combination of people's democracy and representative democracy in South Africa. Like local government, for instance, we have a ward-based system where the people can elect their candidate. At national, it's party political system. So the party political system can also be abused. And a faction can ascend to take control of the movement and assert itself at a factional level, at the national level. But we have been through a lot of difficult challenges, and I think that the movement will find time to get solutions to these challenges that we face. Without challenges, by the way, we'll not be able to develop the best able or most able leadership.
Coming to the issue of leadership, we have a new generation of leaders. And looking where we are now, where do you think they are taking this country and everyone?
Well, the country is taken in terms of posture by largely the decisions we have made in our respective congresses. The national conferences, if you read those conference resolutions themselves, they've got a massive outlay of the future of our country, the vision. The vision is there. Is the ability to turn that vision into programs, into activities that can transform us to that particular vision. But the vision is there and much more clearer, and everyone in the leadership is seized with that vision. And I'm quite certain that we'll reach that vision. Even the next generation will continue to carry the baton towards that vision. It's an important vision to create a democratic, united, non-racial, non-sexist, and prosperous South Africa, where all people live in peace and harmony without any form of discrimination.
And so coming to the recent one, the step aside resolution, do you think, Ndadu Mapaile, that this resolution will mitigate the cause or the root of corruption we are seeing within our leaders?
Yeah, quite certainly. I think any policy will be tested on implementation. As you know, when we began to implement the step-aside policy through the ANC, some of the comrades said, look, you can't say I step aside because there are allegations out there. I need to clear my name, and I need a platform to clear my name. We've created a process of integrity commission of the ANC, wherein if there are allegations against you, you can go to the commission, or they can call you depending on the seriousness of the allegation, and you are able to explain. Then they can determine at that point, based on your explanations, whether you should remain in office or not, or even whether you should be taken through the disciplinary procedures inside the organization, or you step aside. So some then raise an issue about the fact that the policy of the ANC was serious above the policy of the country. That's why they took the matter to court to say the constitution of the country is more superior than the constitution of the ANC. But nonetheless, one may say revolutionary morality is more superior than ordinary morality of society, because revolutionaries are that leading detachment of society that makes more sacrifices for society, and that lead or pioneer the vision of where society should go. And in that process, when they make sacrifices, society aspires for what they do, And therefore, you will require a revolutionary morality to be above the normal law of the land. So we normally we could talk about discipline of steel inside the organization, not just ordinary discipline of society. It must be a discipline that is unbroken or unbreakable. So it is in this regard that this policy will be implemented, and I think that the recent NEC, they have indicated that members will still have the right to reflect. Like now they've taken the decision about the Secretary General, Comrade Ace, to go and have a reflection for 30 days and make consultation with senior leaders to reflect on his own contribution in the movement and whether that should be flushed out by a simple a process where, for instance, he may find himself being dismissed in the organization, or to reflect with other senior leaders to say, this moment, what does it mean for our revolution? So that whatever happens, the movement must remain united as a single force to continue to transform the lives of the people of our country.
But now, what makes it so difficult for leaders to step aside, even when there's been so many intensive discussion around it? What's the cause, or rather that thing that makes it difficult for leaders to step aside when they are being instructed?
Yeah, I wouldn't have loved to justify why they don't want to step aside, because it's largely in the sphere of allegations. But I think I may enter the debate from a perspective that sometimes the judicial system takes too long. For instance, the people who were charged a couple of weeks ago who were involved in the VBS scandal, where a lot of money for poor people got stolen in a mutual bank, those people had taken the movement to court because there were allegations about their role in the VBS matter. And when they were asked to step aside, they said, well, we have not been charged officially. And it took more than 2 years before they were charged. On the one hand, they were asked to step aside. So they were away for 2 years. In this period that they are away for 2 years, the legal process has become stagnant. They go to court, they win the court challenge to come back to the organization. They are admitted in the organization. 3 months down the line, they are now officially charged. So the law, the pace of the law is also important in this regard. But nonetheless, the most important one is the morality of the individual to understand the impact you will cause to the organization when such allegations are made against you. In terms of the constitution of the ANC, for instance, it has highlighted various transgressions. There are those that are regarded as serious transgressions. So we consider that every other member, when charged with serious transgressions, they must consider stepping aside because of the impact it has on the organization.
Recently, we heard the former president, Mr. Kgalema Motlanthe, reiterating that maybe ANC should lose the upcoming elections so that it rediscovers itself. Do you think that will at some point help?
No, I don't agree with that assertion. I think it was desperate to communicate a message of discipline that is required inside the organization and the lessons that we may have. And I think that the issue is that the ANC can assert itself. The ANC has got leading organs like the National Executive Committee, which is mandated to implement the policies of the organization and to unite the organization, to drive the programs of the organization, and to enforce compliance with rules and regulations of the organization. So the NEC must be firm. If the NEC is firm, it can dispense discipline that is appropriate in line with appropriate transgressions or relevant transgressions. But if it fails to do so, then it seeps in a problematic element within the movement of ill discipline. And when it's all for all, then it creates a crisis and chaotic system in the organization. And you can have feelings like maybe we don't take the people seriously, or we don't take the organization seriously. We forego to think about the people who made huge sacrifices, including supreme sacrifices, losing their lives in the fight for the democracy that we enjoy today. So because of that, people can even make that comment that maybe we need to lose power in order to reflect. But I don't think we have to, because it will take much longer to be back on this train of transformation that we have entered into. We may not even come back to this particular train. So we need to sort ourselves out inside the organization, because we have the most thoroughgoing program of transformation of society, of changing people's life than any other political party in this country. And therefore, we can't disrupt that particular program. And we can't allow individuals within us to disrupt that particular program. That's why we have to be decisive at the level of leadership before even considering that we may lose elections. Yes, individuals can lose positions, that's okay. Then they can also undergo self-reflection and learn and come back into the organization at an appropriate time.
Of late, we also saw that the former president, Jacob Zuma, really defying the call to come before the commission, and it went as far as the Constitutional Court. And at this point, we heard of recent that, you know, the commission went to present before the Concord that, you know, this should be the repercussion of his action. You know, seeing a leader doing or taking such action, what does it symbolize to our democracy?
Well, the stance was quite unfortunate because we're a constitutional democracy, and President Zuma used the same constitution to rule the country over 2 terms as president. And this commission was established under his leadership. He signed it off himself. But as you know, from the beginning, even before this commission, we called for the commission to be established, by the way, as the Communist Party. We were the first to make the call, and he didn't set it up. And we did say to him, set up the commission, set up terms of reference, and deal with it. He didn't want, because we had complained about corruption inside the state, particularly the role of the so-called Gupta family, which was really making serious, problematic interventions in the state system. Post that, a complaint was lodged with the public protector, then Advocate Thuli Madonsela. She came to the same conclusion as us. The only difference, she said, he must not appoint the commissioner, that is the judge, to lead the commission. And he took that matter right up to the Constitutional Court. So after that, he was then forced to make an appointment, who was chosen by the Chief Justice. So he had then come to the court to say, this particular judge will not rule favorably against me because of friendship. We characterize that as friendship. In essence, the Chief Justice had admitted that both of them have fathered children with 2 sisters. So President Zuma considered that in African tradition to be relation. Well, that's something else. But the bottom line is that he has to appear before the court. Because if he doesn't, he directly leads the attack on the rule of law and constitutionalism in our country. We've got a constitutional democracy in South Africa. So in a constitutional democracy, the judiciary is the ultimate arbiter of social problems or social crises, not even parliament in our case. So therefore, the Constitutional Court, once it makes a ruling, that ruling is binding across the board. That is why the Constitutional Court has to make an appropriate ruling all the time. And therefore, the Chief Justice, I mean the Deputy Chief Justice, who's the head of the Commission on allegation of corruption, or Commission on inquiry into allegations of corruption and state capture, Justice Zondo, when he came, because his commission was coming to an end, and President Zuma, there are many allegations that were raised against him, about 17 allegations in all, by several witnesses who came through the commission, who did so under oath. And therefore, he needed him to come and answer certain questions. President Zuma had gone to the commission before, and that's when he also made the statement to the extent that he doesn't feel that this commissioner will be fair to him. In normal legal practice or jurisprudence, a litigant can raise a view against a sitting judge and that judge can be replaced. But in this case, the Chief Justice had said that he's the only commissioner who's appointed as this commission.
Yes.
And therefore, if he recuses himself, there will be no one to proceed with the commission. So he then quickly decided that he must force the Constitutional Court to ask President Zuma to appear before him, because he also felt that President Zuma was disrespectful of him. As you know, he left the commission without the authority of the commissioner.
Yes.
That led to the current impasse and therefore going to the Constitutional Court. Nonetheless, there's something that one could have highlighted, that that space, it's important that the former president respect the courts and the constitutional court in our country, as well as the commission. And we've asked all our members who are implicated to go to the commission and say their view, so that they can assist the commission in its attempts to fight against corruption and state capture.
Thank you, Ntate Solomon Paile. We truly appreciate these views, and you've enlightened most of us with regards to these issues, because obviously, like you just said, everything comes into the media and we absorb that without really getting the sense of clarity and the gist of everything that's going on. Before I let you go, Ntate Mapaile, with regards to the SACP and COSATU, will you be also taking part in the upcoming events that will be happening in the leading party?
Yes, we remain part of the alliance with the ANC, because our program is a joint program.
Yes.
In that regard, all the programs that we have launched, including the coming local government elections, we are running them as an alliance. We are already jointly preparing the program. But of course, there will be one or two areas where there are major disagreement, like in some municipalities where we may feel that there's arrogance of leadership. Then we can ask some comrades to stand in those particular municipalities. The municipality in the Free State province called Metsimaholo. At one point, we had to field candidates as the Communist Party separate from the ANC. Because of the behavior of the municipal councillors there. So at the moment, such has not necessarily appeared, apart from sustaining, in our case, Metsimaholo, but we're working together jointly as a movement, because our revolution is more important than internal squabbles of leaders. Because the revolution is about the lives of the people and where they should go. For as long as we see higher levels of inequality and poverty in our country, there's a necessity for us to come together and work jointly and advance the interests of our people. So we'll continue to work together as an alliance with the African National Congress and Congress of South African Trade Unions. Revolution
is for the people, the advancement of the people. Those were sentiments shared by Obaba Usoli Mapaile. Thank you so much for joining us, Baba, and we'll continue to have you right here on Galaxy Universal Network. With that being said, we are going to take a short break. Do stay tuned. We'll be back with more news and updates after the break.
Make massive moves.
How can you say that?
That is what it is.
Your mother eloped with someone else.
I just think this is such a genius idea. I think it's amazing.
I can be happy.
It's inside you. It's inside of all of us.
It's about cooking smart that are nutritious and delicious.
President Trump acknowledging the coronavirus death toll could be significantly higher.
You don't want to do this. There is nothing you can take.
Jerusalem.
Surviving roommates scared.
The heavyweights arrive.
Inside, finds Petulia, blocked by Jane.
This is the will of God.
Make massive moves with Starsight. Make massive moves.
Bible is human and divine.
It's important for us to remember.
And I'm part of God's story.
Yeah, mama, mama, hey.
God is healing you.
God says what he means, and he means what he says. God is good.
I am very grateful to God. I am healed.
Amen.
Make massive moves with Starsight.
I want you to eat healthy food because it's delicious.
Make massive moves.
Would you like another one?
I love it. I love this soup.
This is amazing. The grits are so creamy. Oh.
I take pride in my grits.
So flavorful.
I think that looks wonderful.
Yeah.
It's so incredible.
Make massive moves with StarSat.
Thank you so much for joining us right here on the Pan-African Morning on Galaxy Universal Network. Please do engage with us across all our social media platforms, and we appreciate your views. We see your comments on social media, on our Facebook pages. Continue to engage with us as we move right along with our stories. The self-proclaimed Prophet Shepherd Bushiri did not appear in court on Monday following the death of his 8-year-old daughter. In a statement, Bushiri said doctors believe that she wouldn't have died if he had been allowed to travel to Kenya in February to seek medical attention. Furthermore, Bushiri said he was disappointed that his daughter became a victim of what he called persecution in South Africa.
And the pain as parents have been through in the course of serving God. And not just a child, but she was someone who had given her life to Jesus Christ as her Lord and her personal Savior. Israel was a young girl who loved worship and serving God. It is important to notice that we as a church, as well as parents, did our part. We prayed, we fasted, we declared, and sought God to saving.
Bushiri faces 8 counts of rape dating back to 2016, and he and his wife are also charged with money laundering, jumping bail, and contravening the foreign currency regulations. President Cyril Ramaphosa and the Deputy President David Mabuza led an oversight visit to the Aspen Pharmacare Steriles manufacturing facility in the Eastern Cape to review progress in vaccination production as part of partnership between the government and the private sector. In our next story, as we approach the Easter weekend, many South Africans have been asking if there will be an additional lockdown restriction imposed. Well, the National Coronavirus Command Council is set to meet today on Tuesday to discuss this. There has been warnings of a possible third COVID-19 wave, which experts say it would be triggered by the Easter weekend. President Cyril Ramaphosa says an announcement will be made once they've received a report from the council.
Restrictions in the light of the fear that there might be a third wave, and the light of the holidays that we are going into, that is going to be finalized by the National Coronavirus Command Council, which meets tomorrow, and we should be able to also discuss the matter with our provinces. Our Premier here participates in that, and our Mayor also participates. So they will be able to give us the lay of the land in the province and tell us how we are all behaving here in the Eastern Cape and in Gqeberha in relation to whether we are observing the various protocols or not. And if we find that our people are not really observing the protocols and there's a fear and a concern that there could be a further surge, then we will have to re-examine our position and say, do we need further restrictions? The restrictions that we've come up with have helped to curb the continuing growth and the rise of the infections. But having said that, the matter is going to be discussed tomorrow by the National Coronavirus Council, and we will get a report from the Eastern Cape here and get reports from other provinces, and then a decision will be taken and an announcement will then be.
The Pan-African Morning will take a break. Do stay tuned. We'll be back after this.
Make massive moves.
How can you say that?
That is what it is.
Your mother eloped with someone else.
I just think this is such a genius idea. I think it's amazing.
I can be happy.
It's inside you. It's inside of all of us.
It's about cooking smart that are nutritious and delicious.
President Trump acknowledging the coronavirus death toll could be significantly higher.
We don't want to do this. There is nothing you can take.
Jerusalem.
Surviving roommates scared.
The heavyweights arrive.
Inside, finds Petulia, blocked by Jane.
This is the will of God.
Make massive moves with stars.
Welcome back to the Pan-African Morning. With that being said, let's move to our next story. As South Africa prepares to mark the religious long weekend, the Deputy Minister of Transport, Dikeledi Magatsi, said that the country needed to double its effort to stop the carnage on our roads. The transport officials launched the Easter Road Safety Campaign in Bupong Traffic Center in the Northwest earlier on Monday. This event saw new law enforcement technologies being introduced, such as the body-worn camera that will be used by the police officers.
Cannot continue using the same tactics that have not worked in the past and hoping that these tactics will be able to yield different results. Let us embrace the opportunities presented by the fourth industrial revolution and leverage the new frontier technologies that have been presented to fight the cancer of reckless conduct, and the results of the loss of lives will be reduced as in our roads. Cameras will further serve and act as a deterrent of corruption, effectively preventing officers from soliciting or accepting bribes from motorists.
On some positive news, the South Africa's all-female anti-poaching unit known as the Black Mambas have new allies in their fight against the poaching at the Bulula Natural Reserve, and tens of thousands of virtual rangers help to keep the eye on the wildlife.
The all-female anti-poaching unit called Black Mambas has been protecting South Africa's wildlife since 2013. Now they have a new ally, tens of thousands of virtual rangers worldwide, keeping an eye on the animals via camera phones.
We are dealing with poachers that are professional people. They've been to the army, they know how to use weapons, and we know nothing about it. So this is a big change to us, but it's a change that we want to bring out to people.
Animal reserves across Africa have had to cut back on anti-poaching patrols due to lulls in tourism drying up funding. 1 in 5 rangers has been laid off globally over the past year, according to World Wildlife Fund International. To combat this, the Balule Nature Reserve has teamed up with handset manufacturer Samsung and tech pioneer Africam to supplement staff with eyes and ears online. Over 55,000 people have become virtual rangers since the project Wildlife Watch went live in March 2021. They help track the Big Five of Balule: rhino, lion, leopard, elephant, and buffalo.
People are not able to come in and see the animals, but we can use the cameras to remind them that the animals are still there and they need you to watch out for them.
Nkabela and her colleagues use the same model of phone for communication and to capture images of suspicious activity during patrols, while other handsets have been installed to monitor perimeter fences.
Mambas can only be effective if they can use their senses, because that's, we don't arm them. We rely on their eyes and their ears and their various other senses. Fortunately, the human being hasn't evolved to be able to see at night and to see things quickly and this kind of thing, and it's what I call human bias. I can only cover certain sections of the park at certain times of the day or night. I need technology to fill the gaps.
And the system seems to be working. Viewers of the park streaming service have reported hearing certain sounds, signaling the possibility of poachers, and alerted rangers about trapped animals needing rescue.
Moving to some business news, Visa said it will allow payment settlement using the cryptocurrency. The company said it had launched a pilot program with payment platform that is using the cryptocurrency, and this will be implemented before the end of this year.
Visa said on Monday it will allow the use of the cryptocurrency USD coin to settle transactions on its payment network, the latest sign of growing acceptance of digital currencies by the mainstream financial industry. Visa told Reuters exclusively that it launched the pilot program with payment and crypto platform Crypto.com and plans to offer the option to more partners later this year. Bitcoin, the most popular cryptocurrency, jumped to a one-week high on the news, rising as much as 4.5% to more than $58,000. Traditionally, if a customer chooses to use a Crypto.com Visa card to pay for a coffee, the digital currency would need to be converted into traditional money deposited in a bank account and wired to Visa at the end of the day. Visa's latest step strips out the need to convert digital coin in order for the transaction to be settled. The move from Visa comes as finance firms including Bank of New York Mellon, BlackRock, and MasterCard take steps to make more use of cryptocurrencies for investment and payment purposes, and after Tesla CEO Elon Musk said last week.
With that being said, let's take a look at the market. The rand has been trading at 14 rand 89 cent against the dollar, 17 rand 52 cent against the euro, 20 rand 51 cent against the British pound. Galaxy Pan-African Morning will take a break. Do stay tuned. We'll be back after this.
Make massive moves.
How can you say that?
That is what it is.
Your mother eloped with someone else.
I just think this is such a genius idea. I think it's amazing.
I can be happy.
It's inside you. It's inside of all of us.
It's about cooking smart that are nutritious and delicious.
President Trump acknowledging the coronavirus death toll could be significantly higher.
We don't want to do this.
There is nothing you can take.
Surviving roommates scared.
The heavyweights arrive.
Inside, finds Petulia, blocked by Jane.
This is the will of God.
Make massive moves with Starsight. Make massive moves.
Bible is human and divine.
It's important for us to remember.
And I'm part of God's story.
Yeah, mama, mama, hey.
God is healing you.
God says what he means, and he means what he says. God is good.
I am very grateful to God. I am healed.
Amen.
Make massive moves with Starsight.
I want you to eat healthy food because
Welcome back to the Pan-African Morning right here on Galaxy Universal Network Channel 500 on Starsight. With the being said, let's get to our African update. An Islamic State claimed responsibility of an attack on the northern Mozambique town of Palma, and in which dozens of people were killed and forced thousands to flee, and some remain missing.
At the port in Mozambique's Pemba, families are anxiously waiting for news of their loved ones after a deadly attack in the northern gas town of Palma. Some, like Jose Abebe, are begging for help.
I'm looking for a young man. I need your help with communication to locate my son.
Since 2017, Mozambique's northern Cabo Delgado province has been the target of a simmering insurgency linked to Islamic State. On Monday, Islamic State claimed the attack on Palma, which began on Wednesday, saying it had killed at least 55 people. Around 160 miles down the coast in the provincial capital Pemba, hundreds were arriving by boat on Sunday. Omar Saranga, spokesman for the Ministry of Defence, told journalists that the focus had been on rescuing local and foreign citizens. Dozens had been killed in the attack, he said.
The Defence and Security Forces regret this loss of human lives and advise that they continue to develop at this moment concerted actions of pursuit with the aim of eliminating some pockets of resistance.
A diplomat and a security source involved in the operations to secure Palma said the government is yet to re-establish control, and the exact number of people killed and injured remains unclear. Palma is a logistics hub for international gas projects worth around $60 billion.
On some international update, the President Biden said 90% of U.S. adults will be eligible for the COVID-19 vaccination by April 19, but his administration issued a stark warning about the risk, or rather the rising cases.
I'm going to pause here. I'm going to lose the script, and I'm going to reflect on the recurring feeling I have of impending doom.
U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky on Monday made an emotional plea for Americans to take precautions to prevent the spread of COVID-19 amid an increase in cases across the country.
And I'm calling on every single one of you to sound the alarm, to carry these messages into your community and your spheres of influence. We do not have the luxury of inaction. For the health of our country, we must work together now to prevent a fourth surge.
The United States surpassed 30 million total cases of COVID-19 on Sunday, and the 7-day average of new cases.
Still on President Biden, President Joe Biden and the First Lady Jill Biden visited the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. to mark the National Vietnam War Veterans Day.
this side. Don't go past the ring. Yeah.
On some COVID-19 news, Brazil's health system is buckling under the growing number of COVID-19 patients needing the intensive care unit. Across the country, there has been over 6,000 people waiting for the ICU beds. This is according to data released by the government, and that many are dying while waiting in line.
63-year-old José Roberto Ignacio spent much of his life ferrying the sick to a hospital in the quiet Brazilian town of Piratininga. Now, 1 week after entering that same hospital with COVID-19, the retired ambulance driver was buried in a cemetery just 2 blocks away. His son looked on as 4 men in hazmat suits carted his coffin to his final resting place and sealed his tomb.
All his life, he worked to save people, but in the hour that he needed help, there was nothing for him.
Ignacio's son, Roberto, told Reuters that his father died waiting for intensive care. He was just one on a long list for an ICU bed, but doctors told the family there were 70 people already in line. Bauru, the nearest major town, has 50 intensive care beds, and all were full.
You watch a person dying, and you can't...
Thank you so much for joining us here on the Pan-African Morning, and this is where our installment for the Pan-African Morning will come to an end. But thank you so much for joining us, and do further the conversation, and stay tuned for more programs right here on Galaxy Universal Network, channel 500 on Starset. With that being said, from me and the team, it's a wrap.